Are we there yet? Are we there
We
yet?
are live.
Okay, which I suppose is preferable to being the opposite. So,
hi, internets.
Hello. It is Tuesday. It is after midnight my time on the East Coast, and my partner is out on a date, which means I have been left unsupervised.
Woohoo! Everybody in my house is asleep, so I'm always unsupervised at this time.
And
yay!
And you have better exits, and it's better weather over there. So,
well, it's not like snowing or storming. It never snows here. Let's be honest. Never snows.
I don't miss snow. I am not happy to be back with the snow. No, it's bad. And right now it's the humid stuff where I'm putting like 10 feet of goop in my hair, and it's still frizzed.
Frizz-ease.
Oh no, I've been using that.
Okay, I was going to say you put it in your hair when it's wet, and then again when it's dry. Back to the internets. Hey, everybody. I'm Nikki Jobin. This is my business partner, Diana Rachel. We are Golden Apple Metaphysical, and we are here tonight for you at the Left Unsupervised, which is Misbehaving.
Yes. So if, as some of you may remember from our inaugural show, we suggested some interesting positions for using a Ouija board.
And what you don't need and don't do for it.
Yes. But it was fairly adult, and that is the style of language and approach we have. So if you are particularly delicate, I would suggest that you leave before the bruising begins.
Yeah. If you're at all squeamish, find YouTube videos with Bob Ross because he's the boss.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. There are so many shrines to Bob Ross for good reason.
See what I did there? The B for Bob and the Ross, boss.
Yeah, there we go. Very nice.
Didn't they used to do that like on kids' show? They give you a word and they put compound words together.
Yeah, Sesame Street.
Was it Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Just about my speed today?
Yeah. One of those days with the kids, huh?
It's okay. I've got whiskey.
Yeah, I don't have any right now. I need to go fix that. But I have Sambuca that I haven't had yet because I've been working all day.
That's right. That's right. Diana is working on her next book, which is almost finished.
Well, this is the halfway point, the way the publishing process works with this publisher. But I did turn in my manuscript for Counter Magic and Hex Twisting today. And for people that would like to know, Counter Magic is what you do in response to people hexing you. So
translation.
Yeah. So for example, one of the titles of chapter titles is "Hi, here's your butt back."
I like that. I think the subtitle of the book should be "You fucked with me, so I'll fuck with you harder."
Yeah, wrong publisher for that. But but when I start doing more adult material, that would be kind of perfect. Okay. Getting real sex magic with witches, because, you know, especially in the Bay, you get all these people going, "I know Tantra," or the guys going, "My family wrote the Kama Sutra." And I'm just looking at this going, "I'm pagan, fuck me in the fields, and then we're going to take a picnic blanket and go to a perfectly good 4-star hotel like I want."
Well, there you go. There we go. I like that.
Yeah.
And Diana, just so you know, Diana picks great hotels.
I really do.
You do.
I do. It's a city priestess thing.
Yeah. Like I don't hate it when you make the hotel arrangements when we have to go out of town.
It is definitely preferable to the last time I let my ex-spouse pick. What passed for a double bed was like maybe 1/4 of a twin, 3/4 of a twin. And so like even like tiny petite people could not fit on those damn beds. And it's like,
remember that time we went to the festival and we had to push our 2 twin beds together so that we could
oh my God, that was so bad.
I loved the festival. I kind of hated the room we got.
The festival was fantastic. The accommodations were god awful. And that was like the first time I realized the spider was going into our garbage and picking out my Slim Jim wrappers and incorporating them into the web on purpose.
Yeah, that was kind of awesome.
That was horrifying. It was like this weird Andy Warhol-esque warning from the spider.
That was great. Oh, Unfortunately, our show tonight is not about festival spiders and their decorating habits, nor, unfortunately, is it about sex magic. That
No,
would be a topic I could really get on top of.
how long are you waiting to do that one?
I just thought of it.
Oh,
The whiskey's kicking in.
yeah.
All right. The
Yeah.
topic of tonight's show is Put It Back.
Is put it back and don't hex the moon.
Don't hex the moon. Another subtitle. So when we started talking about this, I think, gosh, you had seen something on another thing on one of the boards that just kind of got your gears going.
Oh, well, this is the reason I very rarely participate in Facebook groups or pagan groups in general, is it's either repetitive beginner stuff, which I've been practicing for 20 years. Unless it's new to me, I'm just not that interested, or I'm not interested in the same old ethical arguments that clearly aren't serving anyone. But there's this one repeated thing when I go in, and it happens in both the pagan world and the hoodoo conjure world, where somebody will be digging or dredging a river for who knows what reason, and they will find something that was obviously used for witchcraft. Like they'll find, like there was one where it was like a bundle that was wrapped around a toy dinosaur, or like they'll find one that's obviously like a witch jar, which is always going to gross you out. And people have been finding, like people find a witch bottle a year, like from going back to the 1600s. You fucking know what's in them.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, geez, could you imagine?
You know, I guess if you're really into like ancient golden showers, that's on you, but I don't need to hear about it.
Whoa.
You know it's in a witch bottle, right?
Yeah, I do. I just didn't want to think about it like that.
Well, I'm covering the bases.
Well, actually, what our first thing that I was going to talk about tonight was actually somebody digging by the river.
Yep.
And he dredged something up. So this is in New Orleans. This was in the Nola Times Picayune. Is that how you pronounce it? Picayune?
It's Picayune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Picayune.
So this man, Shane Mears, found it. It was a witch bottle. So he said that there were nails and glass in there, and he didn't open it up, thankfully, but it's a murky color in there. It actually looks kind of like a dusty, like olive oil bottle.
Yeah.
You know? So he took it to two museums, the New Orleans Pharmacy Museum and the Historic New Orleans Collections Museum. Both of them were unfamiliar. And so here's my thing on this. If you are the curator of a museum in New Orleans, shouldn't you know about some of the shit that you're going to find? Like, how do you not know about witch bottles?
So here's my question, is that there are like actual museums in New Orleans dedicated. The Buckland Museum, Witchcraft Museum used to be there. I know that that's moved, but I think there is still a witchcraft museum there. There are two voodoo museums. There's one for historic voodoo and one for modern voodoo. And they don't do hoodoo. That is a completely separate practice. But there are like scores of witch shops and conjure places that could take it. Like,
I don't think that he realized that it was an occult object.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he went to these two museums, because he didn't have any idea what it was. So he's like, I'll take it to this museum and find out what it is. He calls himself...
Normally I would agree that he wouldn't have realized that, but the way the culture is in New Orleans, I'm having a hard time thinking he wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it's talked about if he was actually from the area, but he calls himself a subterranean treasure hunter.
So he might not have been. He might have just been dredging the Mississippi and on vacation.
I just it's one thing. Like, I get it. Like, maybe this guy knew, maybe it didn't. Yeah. But I'm just really surprised that these curators, had no idea.
Either that or they pretended they had no idea because they did not want to have that talk with him.
I guess. But here's our thing. And he knows what it is now, but he said he's probably going to keep it.
No, put it back.
That's what I said. Put it back. Ooh. Aren't we having enough trouble this year?
So let's talk about what witch bottles are supposed to do magically. Because I think that may be one of the reasons. You understand why I'm saying no, put it back, aside from there is somebody's body fluid in it and you don't know where they've been and they don't know where you've been. And that's a little too intimate, people. But it's also the way witch bottles work is they're decoys. So you put your blood, you put your hair, you put the nails and stuff, and the attacky things in there. And because I'm me, I'll put some kind of taunt like over here, stupid in it. And you basically use that as a lightning rod. So the bad shit people send looking for you goes to that instead of you.
Yeah.
Because they usually have these, and the reason it works is most people will have a very fixed idea of you in their heads. Like you can't control how people see you. You can't control how people think about you.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, because you're alive and your cells are changing, you are in a constant state of change. So when somebody's mad enough to throw a hex, they're usually mad enough to throw out the version of you that they imagine, which is stationary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it easier to go to witch bottle. But that means if you've got somebody else's witch bottle in your house, unless you are proficient at warding, you're basically just going to have a weird spiritual lightning rod, because if they were in a situation that necessitated making a witch bottle, they needed the lightning rod. So, I mean, if you really want to basically just have somebody else's problems, your life was too peaceful and you needed something, I guess that's one way to get some experience, but put it back.
Yeah, put it back. Put it back. My next thing that I found on the internet is in Athens. This is a few months ago, mind you. I think this is April. There's a 2,500-year-old well in Athens. They found 30 small lead tablets, and they are ancient curse tablets. So I guess back in the time, there was a proclamation where these things were illegal. You couldn't do curse tablets anymore. So people started throwing them down this well. And I guess there's been a lot of archaeology going on in the area for a few years, but this is the first time. I don't know if they just haven't excavated the well at all, but now they have, and they found all these curse tablets. So what's the first thing they did? Let's pull them all up. Let's pull them all up.
Okay, so those demon tablets that I've had you help me make?
Mm-hmm.
Those are based on the same thing, except, no lead in the water, because I'm thinking throwing lead tablets in the water supply was not great either.
Yeah, that might kill the people they cursed.
But my first question is, what was going on in that community that necessitated outlawing curse tablets? And what the hell was going on with those people that they had so many curse tablets? Because I have to assume they were on each other.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they estimated how long they think that people were dumping them down there.
Yeah.
But they found about 30.
And my other thing is just because somebody outlaws it, if it was a private practice, why would you? I have so many questions about what went on in the first place.
They're still building. They're still going through the site, and
yeah, I really want context. Also, they dumped lead tablets in the water supply. So there's that part, but then it comes down to the cursing tablets themselves is typically, because my friend Kara Schultz is a Hellenic reconstructionist, and she's taught about curse tablets. And what you're supposed to do is they are supposed to be either a way of messing someone up, but it's also if you bury them, because a crossroads wasn't defined as a four-way intersection like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
But it was any road, if you opened your door and your door opened onto a road, that counted as a crossroads. So if it crossed your door, that was a crossroads, and you would bury these tablets in front of your door as a form of protection, or a very aggressive protection, cursing people you didn't want crossing your doorstep. So I guess without knowing the cultural context of why or how those were used, my guess would probably be something to do with Christianization, outlawing it because it was a pagan practice.
Yeah, I will have to do a touch back on this on our next episode, because I'm going to find those answers for you. I kind of skimmed through the article. I'm going to be really honest.
Yeah.
And I know it explains why they did what they did. I know whoever was running the city at that time made a proclamation about it, but I can't remember why.
Yeah.
And I didn't, unfortunately, write it down.
Yeah. I am super curious, and that might be something where I'm enough of a nerd where I might like find out, like somebody mentioned in the article, and it's like, can you tell me blah blah blah? Because I'm that much of a geek.
Because you don't have enough to do these days.
Yeah, I am shameless that way. I'm like, okay, I'm a complete stranger. Can you answer all of these weird fucking questions for me? Hi.
And they will.
A lot of them will, yeah.
Because most people I know that are in archaeology that are really excited about a find,
Yeah.
that's all they want to talk about.
Well, yeah. They were digging.
And
Yeah. Like one of my greatest regrets is that I never. So when I lived in Minneapolis, the way the city was built is it was basically a city built on top of a city.
mhm.
And so, like, you'd see these old photos of buildings that would completely disappear, and they try to figure out where the hell they went. And so they would strike ground to put in a foundation for a new building, and they would find the top of the roof of the building underneath.
Nice.
And so it got to the point where there is an urban archaeologist on staff, and they would have public archaeology digs because they have to excavate and actually do an archaeological dig before they can build anything. And that's the United States with stuff within written history.
See, that would be so fun.
Yeah, they used to make them available to the public. I never got to because it was always during my work hours, but
that would be fun.
Can you imagine with San Francisco the stuff people would find?
Yes, I can actually imagine the stuff that they would find. It's a little scary.
Okay, once you get past the hypodermics, but
I was thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it.
Left unsupervised.
Left unsupervised. I know.
Yeah, well, and my
gone for
understanding is that from 1970 to about 1989 was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
So
I remember.
yeah, I wasn't there for that party. I came after everybody sobered up.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to what I know we both really want to talk about.
Apparently, self-identified baby witches cursing the moon and the sun and the fae. I feel like there's a lot to tear apart there because it's not just them doing it that's the face palm. It's some of the reactions to them doing it that is also a face palm.
It is. It is. While I am by no means like, oh my gosh, you were hexing. Like, that doesn't bug me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hexing the fae, like if you actually manage to do any damage to them, they're going to come back and fuck you up. Like, well, it's not going to be pretty. They're not even going to be nice about it. And they'll enjoy it. Well,
I mean, you don't just hex the fae. Like, I feel like I almost want to pick apart the celestial bodies first because the fae is a deeper conversation. But with the fae, they are not a monolithic group. They are separate cultures within themselves.
Mm-hmm. Separate courts, separate, yeah.
And like I couldn't find any of the source videos from TikTok at all. Plus, I was working on the book, so I can't say. Like, I was hoping to find something so I could kind of. Context is everything. Is maybe there was a reasoning. I mean, I've had a few fairies pissed off at me in my time. I could see wanting the hex a bitch.
But yeah, okay, like an individual.
Yeah.
But, a whole
This culture. Is sort of like declaring that you don't like people of a certain race or religion and just cursing the entire race or religion for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so you're a bigot. Congratulations. Put that back.
Definitely put that back. As for the sun and the moon, I'm definitely like what are you going to hex the moon with? Don't shine as bright?
I was trying to figure that out too. Like, I'm an animist, so I can see, like, in my worldview, it would be possible to actually piss off the moon. But my feeling, my feeling about it is, yeah, they did something. But the moon's just sort of like, yeah, you did a thing. Congratulations. But here's where the reactions are starting to concern me, is people talking about, I can tell you've pissed off Artemis and blah, blah, blah. Well, Artemis is not the only moon goddess out there. And the way with the deity stories that are unique to each culture, the way someone is a god or a goddess of something is different with each culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really speak for them. And there's very, I'm sorry, but yeah, we ain't special. Like we can go ask, hey, what do you think about this? But they're not going to, just be having this background tantrum.
Yeah, fair.
And so there is a certain hubris in people going, well, Artemis and Apollo are mad. And I'm like, well, there's a lot more to this than Artemis and Apollo.
Yeah.
And Apollo, I don't really connect to Apollo. I imagine somebody out there does, or to like Apollo Hyperion is probably happy a lot more concerned with healing work right now anyway. It's just not that, again, the gods are not monolithic. And I think a lot of people, because like, okay, so maybe like Lu was a god of the sun in Celtic lore. I tend to deal a little bit more with Sumerian and, pre-Islamic pagan stuff. That's more my wheelhouse. And each one is going to be different. Like the impact and influence of the moon on the desert is completely different from what it would be over the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so what did this do? What was the point? What was the reason?
That's when I get into the weird thoughts in my head. I'm like, is this like a mosquito bite for them? Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to put some Bactine on it and we're good. We're just going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
And for the sun, I mean, what are we going to get? Global warming? Well, gosh. Now
More?
you've screwed us. Yeah.
More? Like, should I just like get out my Aquanet that I've been storing since the 1980s and just move it along? But no, I'm also looking because, again, I just wrote a book about counter magic and cursing, and I think it's a fairly open secret that I've been through quite a bit of that. For reasons esoteric and disturbing, and mostly based on me having abusive partners. But when it comes down to the reasoning for a curse, like, I'm not understanding that. Like, my first thought when I was scanning through that is somebody is talking to a demon, and the demon is trying to humiliate them into taking their meds. Like, that was my first thought. Because demons, all y'all can be assholes, but usually helpful assholes. So
I'm sitting right here. Right here.
You know how I say this shit to your face and not behind your back?
True. I do appreciate that. And I do quite often talk about how angels are dicks. So I guess we're even.
I handle that just fine, yes. And yes, we are.
So that's just the reasoning behind it, which I'm not really understanding, is multi-layered, and then the reactions to it. Of course, you're going to get all the white lighters going, why are you hexing, like threefold law, which I don't adhere to.
Well, and I wrote a piece for Spiral Nature, and I'm not sure what's going on with that publication, about the threefold law as a dying egregor. Mm-hmm. And I have used this phrase before, but there isn't an invisible space nanny out there trying to make sure you're nice. Take responsibility or don't. And having had people harass me magically for several years, yeah, I may have started off nice, but by the end I was ready to hex a bitch with their own blood if it would get me some extra sleep.
My take on it pretty much is, hey, do no harm, but don't take any shit. If you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. If you fuck with me again, as I said earlier in the cast here, if you fuck with me, I will fuck with you harder.
Yeah, and a lot of this is these self-proclaimed baby witches wanting to show they have power. And the minute it becomes about showing power, you are showing your weakness. Mm-hmm. You are showing that you don't have power and that you are feeling a lack somewhere, which is why you have this need to flex. Like, I'm just like, okay, congratulations, you cursed the moon, so you're a fucking wuss deep down because you don't want to deal with your feelings of inadequacy and pain, because healing is a hell of a lot worse than hexing. Healing fucking sucks.
The one TikTok that I did see, it seemed like the person in there was saying, oh, you call me a baby witch. So this is basically retaliation from, I don't know if the term baby witch, that they're taking it in the context of I'm a younger person and I'm a new witch, or just being a newbie, what have you.
And I kind of see and here's the thing is I have some empathy for that. Like, I don't call anybody baby witches. This is something that people call themselves. I've only seen people call themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's a new thing, like, in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But what I would run into is in my 20s, I'd already been practicing for some 10 years or so. And if I wasn't in my 40s, one, almost everything I said was dismissed. And I mean, even people my own age, if they hadn't seen me in a forum before, and some people still do this, like witch-splaining is a thing, would talk to me like I couldn't find my ass with both hands.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's still totally a thing. And if you don't have a pedigree, it's still
Yeah.
absolutely a thing because I deal with it on a constant basis.
Yeah, it's basically asking for the toilet paper and they're trying to tell you how to wipe your ass.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
fucking irritating.
I'm like, thanks, got it.
Like, get some context, people.
Yeah.
You know, have you saged? Fucking kidding me.
Don't even get me started on that.
Oh my God.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Sage. I'm like, I love you, but that was
Really?
a bonehead comment. Yeah. That I did tell him that. Yeah.
Yes, I've saged. I'm onto the flamethrower now. I'm onto a flamethrower and a bucket of asphodita. Come on.
Oh gosh, don't even mention that word. No bueno.
It's tasty. But
Yeah,
it's just like
for you. No myrrh.
So every so often I almost accidentally kill Nikki. She
Not
has
so
some weird
fun
allergies.
Yeah, not so much fun for me. The sulfur's always fun.
Well, especially welt sulfur, because that's basically just a way to get demons drunk.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, so I and like you were saying, I do empathize with that because it is very frustrating to put your time and energy and passion into something rather, and someone treats you like you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground.
Yeah. And a lot of it is, and a lot of the reasons people treat older witches or treating younger witches that way, if they've got, there has been this generation of time where people have bought into this idea that there is a right and prescribed way to be a witch. Mm-hmm. And you're making shit up if you aren't staying within that very narrow prescription. You know, and in my case, for the sake of my mental health, I had to break out of that extremely narrow prescription.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at this going, right, but if they're actually doing stuff and finding out if it works, and that's the other thing, is there's this mentality within that narrow path that somehow you have to have their permission to do the things that you're doing. And that is gatekeeping. That gets talked about as gatekeeping. And I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'm sorry, you want I need your permission for how much fuck you? Because just no, you don't. Because I'm going to go off. I'm going to work the magic. I'm going to find out for myself what works and doesn't. And I will not wait for someone else's permission to do it. That is not how you learn. Yeah. That is not how you develop. That is not how you make magic and a progressive art form, which is what it is supposed to be.
I think I've had less of the permission situation, but I have more of the situation where people don't take you seriously. Yeah. And you couldn't possibly, know what you're talking about, and the things that you're doing couldn't possibly work because you're not following a prescribed formula.
Yeah. Well, and it's if you don't do it with harm none, I'm like, you don't understand. Oh, and I realized that this is also because these people have built this comfort around this idea that because they haven't given it permission, it must not have power, right? Mm-hmm. Which is one of the reasons there's a lot of witches in trouble now, because there is a movement within Christianity, the spiritual warfare movement. And that's some straight up cursing magic, and it's some potent shit. And I remember when it was first becoming a movement in the late 90s, and people were like, oh, Christians don't have any power. And I'm just like, this religion's lasted almost 1,000 years. Even if they don't have much power by themselves, they've had some time to turn that wheel and build some shit up.
Yeah. And here's the other fact. They might be just praying, but honestly, when we're in ritual, what are we doing? We're just praying, but we're praying with focus, and we're focusing energies. Well, so are they. They're just not calling it witchcraft.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's one thing in a coven, maybe you have 13 people all focusing on the same thing. In a congregation, you can have hundreds of people all focusing the same energy in the same direction. You think that's not going to have some force to it?
One of the reasons that I will still use Bible magic, even though I haven't been Christian in many years, no matter what I start praying from the Bible, there's at least a couple other people in the world praying that same thing at the same time as I am, with as much feeling, and I can join in that chorus.
Mm-hmm. And different problems require different solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the, okay, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, Wiccans, you don't own witchcraft, so you need to stop with the moral policing.
Yeah.
Somebody needed to say it, so I'm going to say it. And I know it's going to cause a tantrum, but maybe you need to have the tantrum so you start thinking a little bit less like a bigot.
Yeah.
So,
I've had so many people that have shown up to our group, even last week in our group, somebody that has described themselves as, I'm so new, I don't know what I'm doing, that will say something that completely blows my mind.
yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, I never thought about it like that. But that's incredible.
So for the people that are watching that might not be familiar, we run a group in San Francisco called the Emperor Norton Magical Folk Society. And it is predicated on all paths, left, right, whatever, are welcome. And so because of that, one of the reasons we did that is I wanted to have a group where there was not some implicit pressure of a tradition behind it. And because the pagan community in San Francisco Bay is wonderful and very large. But again, because there's this very ethnocentric perspective, people can't quite understand that just by doing things the way they do them, they are creating pressure. Like the time that someone is like, well, we have a druid meetup and we welcome everyone. Like, it's not that you're not welcoming to everyone, but just by calling it a druid meetup, it creates pressure.
Yeah.
There is an implicit, okay, this is really for druids, but, we'll be nice to you.
Well, and the other thing is that with a lot of the groups, you've barely met them. And hi, I'm Nikki. This is my first time here at the meetup. That's great. We're right about to do a ritual. Come on in.
Yeah.
And now you're doing a ritual with perfect strangers.
And you don't know what you're going to expose yourself to. You don't know what an invocation is going to be like for you. You don't know who's been clean about their energy practices. And like, if you're new, I've been training so many empaths in crisis. If you're not trained, if an empath isn't trained, you're a human lint roller. Mm-hmm. So who knows what crap you're going to pick up or who's there in a predatory way? You don't know. You can't know until you've been there a while. And if you're starting off right away that way, sure, you may have a good time and you may have a wonderful spiritual experience. But you could also still have some stuff that just isn't so healthy for you either.
I learned that the hard way. Remember that the year at PantheaCon, we were, what was that, 3 years ago at PantheaCon?
Yeah.
I was there for the weekend. One of my partners was there, and their group was having a ritual, an ADF ritual, and I'd never been to one, but I was like, yeah, I'll go. I did not participate. I just sat and watched, and their Shining Ones found my energy very tasty.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been better for me had I participated and brought some kind of like whiskey or wheat or something to give to them. It might have been better for me, but I just wasn't participating at all because I didn't know anything about it. And, remember, I was so drained of energy that I was actually physically ice cold.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to do some work on you. That was a little scary because I've never seen you get hit like that.
Well, I'd never been hit like that before.
I mean, after I had. But up till that point, that was kind of concerning.
Yeah.
And like even one-to-one, people are not metaphysically responsible sometimes. Mm-hmm. I've had people hit with like deliberate vampire attacks from people that they'd known forever. Just weird stuff. So giving people a chance to feel each other out and get a sense for who they are, that's important.
Yeah, and it's not to say that we never do any kind of rituals. However, when we do, we only invite people that we think that would be in their wheelhouse. And we let them know about it ahead of time, and they have the option of doing it. They don't walk into a meetup and we're like, hey, we're about to do this. We think you'd be great. Come on.
Yeah, it's really, I've adopted the consent culture from BDSM, and I've brought consent culture into what we do magically, which to me makes the most sense.
It really does, because if you're pulling someone, it might not necessarily be against their will, but they might not be comfortable with it. And that's going to screw up the magic too.
Yeah.
that being uncomfortable is just going to be enough that it's going to block the flow that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So, okay. So how did we get here? We were talking about and gatekeeping. Mm-hmm. Okay. I do kind of want to talk about the other side so I think that cursing a celestial object, the celestial object's just kind of gonna look, but we should probably talk more about the Fae. And I know one of the people was like, the Fae are sociopaths. They aren't like humans. And like, okay, you're being ethnocentric and a bigot. Because just not being like humans is not a valid reason to curse someone.
Yeah, not being like humans. I admit that I have definite feelings about that. Sociopath.
Yeah, there are alien moments with you on occasion.
Interesting DNA there.
Yeah.
But the whole sociopath thing, sociopath is really a harsh term in this instance.
It's not the correct one. Having been married to a sociopath and recently finding out I was involved with one, no.
I just think they have wider boundaries.
They have a culture and it has its own laws and reasons, and they're based on nature being nature and survival. It is simply that humans aren't the favorite, most protected thing out there. Mm-hmm. And nature will fuck you up, and so will the Fae.
Yeah.
They have their rules that is basically a weird combination of the forces of nature and feudal law.
I mean, I think in general, they probably just shrug it off too, but if it hit the wrong person in the wrong way.
Well, if you just get just one of them bored enough, because they have time. They have time and they hold grudges because to them, it's not very long.
Yeah.
And again, so did you hit an unseelie? Did you hit the seelie? If you hit the wild Fae, you're going to have other problems.
However, I will say that the seelie are just as invented in the bullshit that they will do to you.
Oh, yes.
As the unseelie.
Yeah, it's not, well, it's like the demon angel thing.
Yeah, just because they're in the light court doesn't mean that they won't knock the crap out of you.
Just because they're prettier doesn't mean they're not just as dangerous. Or prettier by whatever arbitrary standards pretty is.
Yeah.
And it's nice, I know, because I work with the Winter Fae. And, their main message is, we are trying to protect you dumb fucks, which is the phrase they're using. Because the Winter Fae are more urban than agricultural, and they are as annoyed as I am about people thinking that the urban is inherently unnatural.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's lazy thinking. The bullshit. This is one of the reasons I've always hated Robert Frost. He's the one who declared the great god Pan is dead. And I'm just like, Pan and I don't really get along, but Pan and I are just like, oh, what an arrogant motherfucker. And this is before I heard about how the dude used to talk about his wife. So.
Okay, I seem to have missed all of that.
Yeah, grad school, MFA. I kind of wish I'd missed it too, but.
Nice.
I had to watch this film on Robert Frost, and I've never liked Robert Frost poetry anyway. It always seemed weirdly Iron John and condescending. And there was this thing, because his wife was a poet too, and they had a bad marriage because she was married to a dick. And at her funeral, there was this film of, well, she wasn't as inventive as I was.
Oh, wow.
And I saw the spirit of his wife appear next to me, and she just looked at me and said, yeah, he was an asshole. And then she left. And I'm just sitting there because I was witchy, but this was very early in grad school before I'd really embraced that part of myself. And it's okay.
I kind of like that because it's kind of like she got the last word there.
She did, and she deserved to.
Huh? I like that.
And you know what? I read some of her stuff, and she was way more inventive than that dick. So there was that.
I like that. Yeah. So, don't poke the fae.
It's not going to end well for you. Even if you know, like, even if you knew what to do, it's not going to end well for you because you still have to have, if you are new at witchcraft, and unless you are truly exceptional and just assume that you are not for the sake of yourself,
Yeah.
because no matter how good you are, and I'm pretty fucking good, and so is Nikki, there's always going to be something out there that's bigger and badder and better.
Yeah.
Always. So just do not assume that you're the biggest, baddest in town, because that will be an invitation for someone to take you down.
Yeah, I've had my ass handed to me on a silver platter. I don't know how many times.
At this point, there's a reason I'm in yoga. I've had to bend over and kiss my own ass to goodbye so many times.
It just makes me drink more.
Yeah.
It's healing. It's antiseptic.
Is that it?
That's purely medicinal.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for you, America. Jameson.
Yeah, but not for the UK. For the UK, you're all fucked. You have the original Fae there. You're really fucked.
Oh, yeah.
This is the other thing, is that a lot of people, when they think fairies, they think, oh, cute little winged things in my garden. Those aren't really fairies. Those are more plant devas and smaller nature spirits. Fairies,
They have teeth too.
They do, and they will mess you up, and they will get annoyed, but they are not fucking fairies.
Yeah.
Fairies are beings. They are, I don't like the word race for this kind of thing. They are a species or a population. I don't know like what the right word is for this, but
species is good.
Yeah, but like I like the term good neighbors for them because they live in the dimension next to us.
Yeah.
They are literally our neighbors. Whether they're good or not depends on how you want to get along with them, but they live in a parallel dimension. They do share the world with us, and they get profoundly irritated by the way the world got taken over.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just there to be benevolent and cute, and if you really paid attention to Tinkerbell, she'd cut a bitch too.
She did some pretty fucked up shit to Wendy and Peter Pan.
Yeah.
But she was a pixie, see?
Which is, it might be a type of fairy, but that is not the whole of the fae.
Yep.
Goblins are fairies too.
They have big teeth.
Yeah, and they don't mess around. Trolls are fairies too. It's just, they aren't all pretty, cute, benign things, because nature is not benign, nor does it give a flying fuck about any of us, even witches.
In the end, when we're all dead and gone, nature's just going to take over everything.
Yeah, like, we're not trying, when we talk about the environment and saving the earth is fine. We're trying to save ourselves, and we keep forgetting that.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
I remember at the beginning of the year, everybody was like, 2020 is going to be so great because 2019 was horrible. This next year is going to be even better. Mother Nature was like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
And look where we are now.
Well, and I'm watching everyone basically under the same psychological pressure I've been under for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm just standing back going, yep. Wish I could do more. Yep. On the bright side, at least cannabis is mostly legal now.
Mostly legal. Well, yeah. Depending on where you are.
Well, if the feds would get their heads out of their asses, it'd be a lot better for everybody.
Hey, I've said for a long time, marijuana and prostitution, state mandate it, tax the hell out of it, and give the money to the school system.
Works for Amsterdam.
Pay the teachers more.
Yeah, works for Amsterdam, and Amsterdam is fantastic.
Right?
Yeah. So why not?
I mean, you want to smoke some pot and get high? Great. You want to go sleep with someone and give them money for it? I think that's great too.
Honestly, prostitutes are a public service because so many men are assholes. I'm trying to date right now.
That is a whole nother vidcast.
Whole
nother episode.
We'll save that for sacred sex, sacred prostitution, and sex workers. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Ooh, that should be like that should be our. That's coming soon. That episode is coming soon.
The thank you sex workers episode. Yes, that should be a thing
Yes,
for sure.
that should definitely be a thing. Yeah, it's just I'm just kind of cycling back to the other side of, the people that are condemning these people, these witches that have hexed all these, bigger forces than them. I think it's just, it's so easy for people to just sit there and point the finger and shake the finger at people that are doing things outside the norm.
Yeah.
I've recently seen different posts about, if you associate with a certain person, like at an event, and it's someone that they don't like, that you're just as bad as that person.
Yeah.
They have no idea why you're associating with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Or, it could just be that, maybe they're hiring you to do some work. Who knows? They just have a bare, not even a fact about what's going on. And all of a sudden you're doing something I don't like. Ergo, you are now bad.
So I'm going to spell this one out a little bit, and I'm just going to use Panthea Constance no longer exists as an example. Mm-hmm. Is there was some stuff there that I did not think was okay, like letting an anti-trans speaker in who advocates violence towards trans folk. That was not cool. Mm-hmm. And having her deplatformed was reasonable because she actually does advocate violence and doxing and things that would get people killed.
Well, but you wouldn't see her talking to someone, like if she was talking to me at a party, this person, you wouldn't automatically go, oh, Nikki's bad because she's talking to that person.
Right. No, I wouldn't. It's like, okay, you're talking to that person. But there has been, even though I think people were well within their rights to speak up and say, hey, I've got a problem with this, or I have many questions about this, and this is offensive. But this is mushroomed into a really nasty behavior where, okay, if you're going to go to this event, we're going to boycott and harass all of you if you're teaching at these events. And that is a giant fucking overstep on a Baptist church level. Mm-hmm. It is not okay. It is another form of bullying and controlling, and to be honest, just as bad as the bad shit that some of these people that got deplatformed are doing.
Yeah.
And
there are definitely people in the community, even big name people, that I'm not necessarily a fan of.
Yeah.
But other people that I might see working with them, like collaborating on a project, or working at an event with them, or even just talking to them. Maybe I know the person that they're talking with, maybe I don't, but I'm not going to judge that person until I know that person. Like, that's a really big thing to me. And maybe it's very personal to me because I've spent so much time in the community where people make assumptions about me.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it's a hot button for me.
For me, it goes back to me getting angry at people thinking I need their permission to make choices. Mm-hmm. Like, that really pisses me off. Like, years ago, I left a coven because they wanted me to stop writing. I had to have their permission to do it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even writing stuff that was relevant to the coven. I was writing about my own magic. Yeah. And it comes down to well, if you go and present at this, you have to have our permission and approval. And it's like, no, I did not consent to that relationship with you. This is violating my consent. If I go in, it's something that I've said before, because I write stuff on my FetLife journal too, is, this is the thing that sucks, is you have to, people have a right to go into a relationship, even if they know it's abusive. And you do not have a right to tell them that they can or cannot be in that relationship.
Yeah. It's totally okay for you to say, I have some concerns. Are you okay if I express them to you?
Yeah.
That's totally okay, because if this is someone you care about and you're concerned about them, of course you want to talk to them. But A, you need to make sure that they're in the headspace. And two, like, I think it's totally okay to be like, hey, I have some concerns about this. Are you okay if we talk about it?
And there is a difference between really not liking who someone is associating with and someone actively doing something that endangers you.
Yeah.
And I have seen some situations where, okay, And this is where it's tricky is, yeah, I might be presenting next to somebody who has very much endangered other people. That is still a choice that I'm choosing to make for my own reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
but
yeah,
you're not necessarily actively endangering other people either.
No, and given my history as an advocate and an activist and somebody who still helps people in domestic abuse situations, I'm going to be very conscious of where the line is.
Yeah.
You know, you may not like where people go, but they're going to go where they're going to go. Trying to dictate where they go is actually really fucking gross and not okay.
Yeah. And linking that to our subject that we've been talking about tonight is hexing is a thing.
Yes.
You know,
and I consider it a necessary thing.
I was just about to say that. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I will try and fix a situation and get burned so many times, but for me to actually agree to do a hex or make that conscious decision to hex someone, there is a reasoning behind it.
I have my own, because I do have a principles-based value system and an honor system that I abide by. Mm-hmm. But that means there is a check. It means I have to do X number of things first to try to put a stop to the thing happening or to resolve it. And if that still doesn't work, then yeah, I'm going to hex you.
Yeah. I mean, let's use you know, relationship violence as a factor. Like, yes. If I have a friend that's in a relationship, I'm going to do everything I can to help them get out of it if that's what they choose to do.
Yeah.
Before I'm hexing someone, like, we're going to try all the regular, everyday things first. We're going to do everything that we possibly can do before I resort to something that I don't think that I'm going to get repercussions for it, because I do have a system in place where I think that my repercussions will be minimal. However, I need to be okay with my conscience about why I've done it. You know, and that's not about my relationship with a higher power. That's my relationship with myself. The lines that I will and won't cross. And nobody can tell me where that line is.
And nobody should dictate what that is for somebody else. Yeah. I mean, within rule of law, within rule of law is kind of a group consensus thing. But when it comes down to somebody who's going to ignore that anyway, you have a right to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I live in, you know, my partner is a gun rights advocate. I hate guns. Our definitions of self-defense are a little bit different, but when it comes to magic, you have a right to defend yourself, and you do not need permission to do so. And I may say some very snarky things about the Catholic Church and telling people that you're not allowed to do your own exorcism or whatever, and just saying, okay, patriarch, and moving on.
We know my exorcism story.
Yeah, I never did take with you. You're still evil.
But you're still evil. So we're going to anecdote here. Once upon a time in San Francisco, when Nikki was a little squirt, just barely 7 years old, I was my family that I grew up in with was Catholic, and I was being raised Catholic, but I had not yet taken my first communion. And my mother didn't really bring us to church, but for whatever reason that day, I went with my grandmother to church. And we were sitting in the back pews, and my grandmother said, "I'll be right back. I'm going to go get the wafer." And, you know, and I had to stay there, and she went up with this line of people to get the wafer, and I see that they're getting something in their mouth, and I'm thinking, there's cookies? And my mother didn't really bring us to church. Whoa, hi, look at that. That was me.
Sorry. I thought I had the sound off on my phone because I was looking to see if there's anybody in the Facebook Live that said anything, but sorry.
No, not yet. I have comments should be shown. I figured out how to do the comments.
Oh, good. Okay.
So unbeknownst to my grandmother, I snuck into line. I went up and, you know, I took communion. And as I turned away, I realized that what they put in my mouth was not a vanilla wafer. It was a piece of cardboard.
Oh, you got the nasty styrofoam communion.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, but I, you know, promptly spit it out and put it in my pocket. They frown on that. They don't like that. I don't know who saw me, if it was an altar boy that told the priest or what, But about a week later, there was a contingent of priests at my grandmother's house, and they told her, because I'd spit out the communion, and I hadn't had my first communion or catechism, but I'd spit out the body of Christ, that I must be possessed, and they wanted to do an exorcism.
They're
And my
priests.
grandmother
Obviously,
was,
they had no preparation for children at all.
well, yeah, I don't know. That was quite a few years back. And my grandmother was a devout cat. Like, this woman prayed 7 times a day. I mean, she was a very, very devout Catholic, and she looked at the priests and she very politely told them where to stick it. And we never went back to that parish again.
Yes, sometimes kids, religious authorities are ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah,
I'm just putting that out there.
I don't know why they would think I'm possessed, because I'm such an angel.
A little kid not wanting to eat fucking cardboard. Yeah, that's not a sign of possession. That's a sign that you were a kid.
Yeah. It was a sign that it wasn't a cookie. And to this day, I still like real vanilla wafers.
I mean, the vanilla wafers. I went to a Protestant church where we had to make unleavened bread, and there's this weird pseudo-Judaic tradition behind it, but the communion wine had a minimum proof, and we all knew where it was hidden, so it made getting through services and church breakfast a lot easier.
Yeah, see, I think people would like communion more if it was a vanilla wafer.
I think they would too.
Those little.
I'm sorry, but I've seen the picture that Jesus on the cross, and Jesus was so not vanilla.
Yeah. What about those? Are they called Tam Tams? The little British ones? They come in a little round biscuit. Those would be great.
I mean, the tins are great. I usually get the tins.
Yeah.
But
don't worry, I already know I'm going to hell.
Now I really want jelly babies, but I think there's a Cosplus in town. I might put on a mask and risk it.
Nice. All I'm thinking of are the Oreos that are in my cabinet that I'm not going to eat.
Oof. No, I had Oreos.
Yeah.
For about 2 days.
Yeah.
House full of kids. Oreos do not stay here, especially if you do not hide them well.
Yeah, the kids know, but I also have, that whole it's half a shelf now, but we had a full shelf of See's candy. That was, I had to break up with the See's candy.
Oof, yeah. We kind of overcompensated because we did not plan for Easter during a pandemic. So basically we have these big coffee cans of candy we've been working through, but now we're down to the really crappy chocolate.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that's wrapped to look like a carrot. Why?
Yeah, Brad and I played chocolate roulette. For hey Bill, one of my Martuni's people, Bill Wicht is on. He says, great conversation, thank you for sharing. You're very welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Hi. Nice to meet you.
For watching. I was just gonna say, if there's anybody watching and you have a question or a comment, throw it up because I can see it on the screen.
I mean, it doesn't have to pertain to the show. It helps if it does, but
yeah, hey, I like it. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were playing candy roulette. So that's where you pick a candy out of the See's candy box and you take a bite, but you have to eat it no matter what it is.
Oh, that's pure evil. I couldn't do that because of my coconut allergy.
Yeah, I got coconut a couple times, and I got that weird one that's not straw. It tastes like rum and strawberry, and I don't know what it is.
Oh, I like those though. I actually like those.
Well, yeah, but I ate it. it. Don't say that I don't eat the things I put in my mouth.
It's like what was it? The do you remember that feud with David Lee Roth and what was the group that he was part of? Van Halen.
Oh yeah.
Where it was Eat 'Em and Smile, and the response album was Oh You Ate One Too.
I like that.
It's
that's good. We get on weird tangents. I like that.
We do. When honestly, just putting the camera on for what used to be our normal Friday night routine, anyways.
Yeah.
I take my tarot cards, go to Nikki's house, and the obscenity would start flowing.
Oh, I know. That was great. No more. Well, eventually. Well, no, that'll still be harder even when lockdown is over because you're there and I'm here.
Yeah, I have unfortunately had to move to Michigan for many reasons, but I'm working out a thing where when things are safer, whenever that happens, which I'm going to be flying in once a month, and I'm still working on becoming a business owner with Nikki in San Francisco.
That's right. We are working hard on the website. In fact, this week I just went through and made a bunch of edits. I decided I didn't like some stuff, so I just changed. Just lettering, really, the fonts. I was
See,
like,
I mean, I know that this is just a mock-up, but I'm loving the new logo.
yeah,
So,
I loved the old one that Caitlin did. I really do love that, and I would love that for a window.
yeah,
But we just need something smaller because you miss. I mean, in our little banner here or our little logo here, you just miss all the beautiful detail that
yeah,
she has in there.
yeah. And so, and our vision is starting to coalesce because we're calling it your steampunk botanica.
Yes.
Because that's kind of our thing, especially since it's not just like, yes, it's botanica stuff and stuff for actual practitioners, but it's magical innovations too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, as much as possible, we're getting stuff that is handmade by people we know. Granted, between more on Nikki's side than mine these days because social anxiety, blah blah blah. But we have various people that we date that we bring into the family.
Yeah.
And it sort of is turning into this little corporation of different artisans that all happen to have complementary skills, or in my case, it's different healers.
Yeah.
So, because like I have Tom and Cinti, and and it's just like my side is more like the healing agency side of it, and
I'm getting a lot of artists.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will be getting Dee Dee Myers, who is a fantastic artist. She does she's got this great 3-piece photo of the tree of life that she's done, or it's a painting, but it's gorgeous, and I'm hoping to get those prints onto the shop site and some other things that she's done because she's just a wonderful artist.
That's exciting.
Caitlin, who did our big golden apple metaphysical sign, she's an amazing artist too, and I know she was doing some things on Etsy and through her Instagram. I'd love to, when she's ready to start working again, because she just had a baby, this year she had a baby, or the end of last year she had a baby, and when she's ready to get back into that, I would love to be able to just feature these artists. Seeing people from the community and the things that they make are just so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump over here. We do have a question from Bill. He says, how is a hex conjured, and is there a follow-up to the exercise?
Okay, I kind of want to ask some questions to clarify, because there's many ways to do a hex. And depending on the style of hex you do, yes, there usually is some kind of follow-up, a couple of follow-ups. So if somebody came to me and their situation looked like a hex was the best option, and this very rarely happens, but it does happen, where I will walk through the magic for someone, and an uncrossing isn't, an uncrossing can only do so much, or some kind of go away spell, whatever. It needs to be like, magic is always rooted in intent. So I have to understand what result you're trying to produce. Like, is this just revenge where you don't need to see it play out? You just need the energy to go somewhere? Is this something where you need a chain of events to put somebody in a certain position, or to make a certain thing fall out a certain way? And it comes down to, what is the emotional driver underneath you doing this? Because with all of that information, I can then usually design a hex based on what's really going on, what needs to happen, and what would either bring about justice or bring about the kind of retribution that would open the door to healing. Mm-hmm. Because the best hex is, you do something nasty, but you do it in order to heal. It's almost like emotional follow-up. It's like emotional chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up would usually be like, it would be something before and afters, do divination to see how it went. And then usually it's either repeating the hex until you get the result you want, and then thanking any spirits involved. But then there is usually some kind of healing that you need to seek out afterwards too, because that was basically, a hex is basically a way of letting you express your emotional shadows that need some kind of nourishment. But once that nourishment is given, there's going to be other pieces of your shadows that are revealed, and you will need healing for them. It's a continuous process. The more you hex, the more you learn about yourself, and the more you have to heal, and the more unpleasant that process is. You know, especially like if you were doing something like, the sense I got is that a lot of these people on TikTok witches were hexing to show they had power because they're really feeling powerless right now. And so, okay, they did that hex, but now let's go look at that powerlessness and look at what's really going to nourish it. Because, you know, throwing crap at the moon and sun, I've been drunk enough to get mad at the moon. Who hasn't?
I don't think I have.
I have. I mean, I've gotten mad at light bulbs when I get drunk. It's why I don't drink much. It just.
I have so many stories.
You haven't been around when I've been drunk enough to start screaming, "My teeth are numb!"
No, I had a friend once that when she drank vodka, I can't remember if it was vodka or tequila, that she'd be like, I can't feel my fingers. It was hilarious.
And a little disturbing.
Yeah, it was hysterical.
Well, the last time I ended up rolling around in a friend's car screaming my teeth are numb, it had been preceded by 7 shots of whiskey and me attempting to do karaoke to Bohemian Rhapsody when I could no longer enunciate.
7 shots of whiskey? I'm so proud of you.
I was in my 20s and still had a liver, you bitch.
Good. Okay, I work in a bar. I mean, I don't drink at the bar when I'm working, but I work in a bar, so 7 shots of whiskey.
No, I'm drinking slightly more than I have, but even then, I'm trying to do it very sparingly.
When I went to Cheyenne, they were, everybody was drinking beer, and I was drinking shots and whiskey, whiskey shots, and then whiskey drinks, and they're like, "How are you still standing up?" I'm like, "They don't make these shots like they do back home." Tolerance.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, I'm a wuss. We know that I'm a wuss.
No, I like it though. But you also drink absinthe.
I love absinthe.
I know, and you have a tolerance for that, and I can only get through so much.
Well, I dilute the shit out of it, and you have to really love licorice.
Yeah, I'm not a huge licorice fan. I have done absinthe. Remember the green fairy parties?
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually met the gentleman that runs those. Okay, Bill has another question. Can a hex be placed on the dead or an assumed spirit?
Oh, that's a good question,
really
Bill. I like that.
I kind of wanted to take Bill aside and say, can you give me some context for this? But I obviously don't want to dig into your private life because I have a feeling this is going somewhere. But yes, it can. And there can be, I have been asked to remove hexes from, part of it is that there is such a thing as ancestral curses. Mm-hmm. And some of them, they play out in addictions or family feuds or just this weird conditions of things just not quite working. Or continuous illnesses for no apparent reason or weird ways to die, just a lot of ways they can play out. Yes, they are a thing. Yes, you can hex a ghost or a dead person. If you do that, there's some really specific reasons. Either, the dead person has pissed you off, and I may have hexed a ghost or two that was sent to haunt me because I like sleep and I get mad.
Just a note here, if they're your ancestor, make sure that you have broken all ties.
Yeah, and that's actually a very complicated process.
Yes.
I would not hex your ancestor because your power comes from your ancestors. That said, there are things that can be done to deal with the squirrely ones. Mm-hmm. But it
rather
does
than hexing, I think sometimes it's just easier to ghost trap when if you have a spirit that's being particularly pesky.
Yeah. When I write about this one, it depends on the situation because, again, it almost always requires a conversation with the spirit to find out what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, rather than hexing, especially in family situations, because like I had that one with the Romani ancestor who just didn't like anybody marrying outside of her tribe, and I'm not even part of that tribe. And it was like punishing me for literally existing, and I couldn't have that. Yeah. So like I did a thing where I did a justice petition where I appealed to some deities that do judgment and justice and said, here's a condition that is set that is not acceptable. Can we do something about this? And they did.
Yeah.
And I don't always know what happens to the spirits aside from, them getting spanked and saying, no, don't do that. We will eat you. So, just
Everything's hungry. It's the circle of life.
pretty much. Well, and
And
even when you're dead, you still have choices and you're still responsible for your actions.
Yeah.
So, all that peeping Tom shit in the shower will come back to bite you. And has more than once. But not me. I'm still alive. But
I don't want to know about when you're peeking at people in the shower.
When I lived in Minneapolis, I had a ghost that would peek into the shower, and it was a really weird situation.
Yeah.
Because it was in this co-op, it was mostly Somali refugees at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a young Somali woman who had died, but apparently she did not usually get to see naked people very much when she was alive. And so I would look up and she'd be peering through the shower, just staring at me.
You're like, howdy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, I guess she never looked down at herself or was allowed to look in a mirror or something. I don't know. But it was just this, I finally had to pull her aside and have a talk with, please stop doing that. And when she didn't listen, I finally had to banish her. But it was just, really?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky enough not to. I mean, I think there was a spirit here for a little while.
Yeah.
I had a couple weird instances when we first moved in, like the first year we moved here, and finally I was like, "Hey, could you not do that?" And I think you came in and gave them a job to do, and it's been chill ever since.
That's pretty much what I do. It's also, again, I'm an animist, and there are indwelling spirits of the hearth and home, but the home itself has a spirit, even an apartment home. And it can be imbued with the spirit as the family lives there, or it can wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of this has been, like, I'm going through the process now of where I'm living is, this place has always been a landing pad between life crises, and we are turning it into an intentional place. All right. So, Bill, if you want to chat with me, I do take consults and I do deal with this stuff. So, but yeah, if you have any more questions, we are happy to answer.
Yeah. And if you want to talk to Diana specifically, I can connect you through Facebook too.
Yes. Yeah. Dealing with weird dead people stuff, that is my area of expertise.
Yeah, I don't really deal with the weird dead people.
Yeah, well, and my stuff has expanded a lot because a lot of what I do is train other sensitives to straighten their stuff out.
Hmm.
And that can veer into dead people and into empath stuff and into shadow work. And I'm basically the person who does all the supplemental stuff that you do with your therapist. Are we always surrounded by spirits if we don't feel or see them?
Hi,
No.
Tamar.
Hi, Tamar. No, we are not always. It is, one, they have stuff to do too, or cable shows to binge or something. I honestly don't ask them what they do with their time, but there's a couple things. Is one is some people just aren't sensitive and consider that a gift. You get way more sleep than I do. But it is also spirits. The dead have lives of their own. And the dead are not the only spirits out there, but they all have their own existences and purposes and things to do. So, and you will know when you're surrounded by spirits, and like depending on the type of spirit, like a demon feels different from an angel, which feels different from a fairy, which feels different from a ghost. And so it's a whole thing, but no, not all the time. There are places that you will get more activity than others. So like, there is a lot of bars have a lot of activity because that's one of the reasons I'm very picky about what bars I go into is there's this thing called passengers where there are spirits, because it's interesting. Whiskey can be used to block spirit traffic, but if you ingest it, it can increase your chances of possession.
Yeah, a lot of times people get so blitzed and we say, gosh, they're so drunk, they're out of their mind. in a way they are, and you're very open when you're really intoxicated, and sometimes people pick up some hitchhikers.
Yeah, and possession only happens by consent, but when you're drunk, you're not really consenting, but they do not abide by the same laws or modern concepts of consent that the living do. And so that can become a problem. Because they'll ride you and then they'll get bored and it can be a thing. I have heard of some people getting followed home occasionally, but I'm not really sure what causes that one exactly. I'm still working on understanding that behavior.
Mhm.
And I mean, sometimes it's just something doesn't want to pay rent either. And San Francisco, it was very easy to pick up spirits because nobody could find a decent place. So everybody was kind of squatting.
About spirits and houses, though, we've gotten a question. A friend of Brad's had asked a question. Her son, well, her son kept hearing banging late at night.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then she knew that the woman that owned the house prior to them had passed away in the house. So she had some questions. And I was like, well, okay, is the banging, are you hearing it every night at a specific time? You know, are there any other things going on besides that? And she was like, no. And I was like, well, first thing I would suggest, have an exterminator check out your house.
Yeah.
You know, you want to check for the mundane things. Have a plumber check. Maybe you have a loose pipe. If you're not experiencing anything else, if you're having weird occurrences, my recommendation is always look for the mundane explanation first. If you've had your exterminators, your plumbers, your electricians, and they say everything is fine, but you still have weird shit going on, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's time to consult someone else. I will say this next part very strongly. If you are not experienced in this area, please do not try and get a spirit board and speak to whoever you think may be in your house, because sometimes you open a door that you don't know how to close.
No, don't do it. Call Nikki, call me, call somebody.
Yeah. But
And this is the tricky part, is that especially for people that are practicing certain monotheist religions, they don't really teach you how to handle it. They just teach you how to be more obedient to not doing it. And it won't solve the problem. Not usually.
I'm a big fan in debunking it as much as you can.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes it does totally happen. Is it okay to try and contact a loved one who has passed? So my whole thing about the spirit board is, if you are not experienced with it, I highly recommend to not, because sometimes you really can open that door
Yeah.
and not be able to close it.
So if you're not using a spirit board, I would advocate waiting a year to contact the loved one that has passed. Because during that year, they're kind of walking the earth and figuring their stuff out before they move on. And things are very unsettled for them. So, except for like a few immediate semi-crisis things. But you can do that without using a Ouija board. You can do something where you say a prayer to your higher power and ask to talk with them in a dream, or you just set yourself out quietly somewhere, clear your mind, leave out a little bit of an offering for them of some kind of food. Water is always important. Even the dead need energy to be here. And then you just quiet yourself and listen. And sometimes people will get a feeling, sometimes they will hear a voice, sometimes they will see or have images in their head. And it depends on the person and the different stuff that they're doing, but you don't necessarily need to do that. Now, the original history with Ouija boards is they were designed to contact dead loved ones after the Civil War. But even so, unless you really know what you're doing, unless you know exactly who you're talking to, and you've had some practice in building up defenses and laying down boundaries and learning how to do that with your energy, yeah, it's better not to. But doing something where you know exactly who you want to talk to without the board, and just inviting a conversation, and if you need to, invite your guardian angels or protectors or whatever to make sure you get the right person. or ask some questions to make sure you get the right person.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's safe, but you do need to give them some time to heal and prepare and be ready to communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just going back to if you clear your mind and try to commune with them that way, you might not get something during that time, but then maybe when you're finished, you'll be on your way home or whatever you're doing, and you'll see something that had special meaning for the two of you. Like when my brother asked his now wife to marry him when they'd gone away on vacation. He was going to ask her, and he was kind of like talking to my mom, who's been passed since 2009. He was like, I really wish I knew how that you approved of this. And if he'd asked me, I knew my mom. My mom loved her, loved her to death. But after he proposed, he saw all these butterflies, and my mother loved butterflies. And it was an area where they didn't expect to see any butterflies, but then all of a sudden they just saw all these butterflies that came out of nowhere for them. And so for him, that was his kind of confirmation that my mom was happy about it.
Yeah, and in Polish culture, there's this tradition called Ziadi, where it's done twice a year, maybe more than that. But there's one where you have the dumb supper, where it's the silent supper, but then you open the windows and doors and invite the ancestors to come in. And any activity during that dinner, especially even insect activity, is considered the ancestors communicating with you. So it's like having that invited time to have come and talk. And yeah, it will be things like, insects doing strange things or seeing signs, or animal activity is a common one. It's especially easy to spot in urban environments. Like I have a thing with the fox, and I will see foxes in places that foxes do not go. Just because, and sometimes it may even be like I will see one on a billboard when I hadn't seen that billboard before, and I'm fairly advertising blind. So like I'm the human that marketers hate because of that. But it will come out in different ways.
Another thing for maybe be more open to talking to your ancestors when they're at their point, around Halloween or Samhain, or Day of the Dead. Many cultures revere their ancestors during this time.
Yeah.
So in my house, we have a certain area that we set up. We put pictures up of dead loved ones, and then we put something by the pictures that's just, something that would, like, some kind of offering to them.
Yeah.
And the veil is thinner there, so it's oftentimes easier to communicate with them during that point, or to get signs from them.
It is. And it's also like it can be a very healing time when you know what you're doing, what you're carrying to it. So something my partner is fond of saying is grief is love with nowhere to go. Well, Samhain is about acknowledging your grief. And I've written about Mabon and Samhain, and I talk about Mabon is you realizing a loss is coming and what's been sacrificed for everyone else to survive. But Samhain is that space where you talk to these people, where your grief, where that love that has nowhere to go gets somewhere to go. Mm-hmm. Because you communicate with them and you connect with them and you feel that continuity. And yeah, some of us have had some really fucked up ancestors, and that means the healing work is that much more important. But if you reach far enough back, you will always find some of the good ones. And it's worth it because they have that love for you that needs somewhere to go. And so Samhain and Beltane and Summer Solstice also kind of have that thin veil in that time to let that love go where it's supposed to.
Like that.
I know that was almost sweet coming from me.
It was almost sweet.
I feel like I should drop an F-bomb to make up for it, but
I almost felt something.
Oh God. That dead thing? Damn.
Speaking of feeling something, I have one more thing to talk about. If we have any questions, just regarding these subjects that we've been talking about, we'll definitely bounce back and answer those questions. But my next thing was, have you read the whole astrological, like, zodiac sign thing? They've dusted off the where the zodiac signs are all wrong.
Oh, I heard that a while ago.
Yeah, they're dusting it back off again.
Oh, so that's back. I
Yeah.
mean, the last time they did it, I was still running the Magical Realism Perfumery, and I was thinking about maybe just like updating my line of astrological fragrances, which, I mean, I guess with Golden Apple I could do that, but I'm going to have to restart with the oils anyway.
Yeah, so they're talking about not only did ancient astrologers omit the 13th constellation. So apparently it was 13 parts to the sky, but because that didn't fit, they just took out the 13th one. And so their dates were wrong, and now the positions of the stars have shifted over time.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're bringing back the 13th sign, zodiac sign, which is Orpheus. I had to look at my weird pronunciation thing here.
I don't even know the myth associated with that one.
Yeah, I don't think that they really have anything for it. That's just what's in the sky. And so like they have fucked everyone's zodiac sign up. Some of them are like a week, some of them are like 45 days. I'm just gonna say it. I'm an evil Pisces.
We
I
already
don't
knew
care. I
that.
don't care where the hell where does it try to put me now? For Pisces, it tries to no. It's I'm an Aquarius now apparently.
Not much difference, really.
I don't like it. We don't like change. We don't like change. The only person that it didn't really screw up was like Leo, for the
I'm a
most
Leo,
part.
but I'm a
When's your
Leo with
birthday
a.
again?
I'm August 14th.
Oh, yep, you're still a Leo.
I am a Leo. Yay. What was November 14th, just out of curiosity?
November 14th is now Libra.
Ah, yeah, I'm a Leo with
So
a double
we're turning a
Scorpio.
Scorpio
So
to a Libra. But then, like, Scorpios now are November 23rd to November 29th.
okay.
And Virgos are September 16th to October 30th. It's just
Uh,
weird. That's my pet peeve of the day.
so, well, here's the thing: Scorpio's been moved into Libra, and Libras are usually the ones that, I mean, they'll lie about stuff, but they're even keel. But does
Yeah,
that mean that, given the global conditions, and given that Scorpios are notoriously kind of murdery, given everything going on in the world, is being murdery just the reasonable way to be?
I think we're all kind of murdery now after all this
So
pandemic.
everyone's a Libra, so we're all fucked.
Bill, in answer to your question, December 4th is now the Orpheus.
So you get to be a special snowflake.
That is November 29th to December 17th.
That sounds like something I plant in my yard in the fall.
Yeah, it should be a flower.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like a bulb plant or something. Yeah.
but then like the last time they were dusting it off, they were saying, well, if you've already lived your whole life as Pisces, you're still a Pisces. But now all the new people being born are these now they have to fit in this new.
And identity politics broke down in an orgy of lube and Orpheus.
Yeah, I get it. I like that. That was clever. Thank God there's lube.
He made it for everything.
Thank God. Because this year's fucking us. I want you to know that most of the whiskey is gone from my glass. This has been soda for like an hour.
I forgot to bring my water bottle in here, but my Sambuca is waiting. It's like a new area code. Yes.
Yes, it's totally. I was trying to remember, God, last week or something, how long 415 was the area code in this area? Because I feel like it was in the peninsula, it was in like Marin. I don't even know what the Marin area code is now.
I
Could
never
it still
know.
be 415? I don't know. I'm
I
gonna
keep
look that
hoping
up.
they build the BART out to Marin just to make them all uncomfortable. But
They won't be uncomfortable. They're interesting there. They're super duper nice.
yeah, but it's almost like a Minnesota nice.
Yeah. Marin area code. I'm gonna say okay, Marin, what's the Marin area code? I had to look it up. 415. A new area code 628 is being added to the area served by the existing 415 area code to accommodate demand for new phone numbers. All right.
Well, since now everybody since you call a person and not a place.
Yeah, right.
That is a
We
thing.
just text everyone. It doesn't really matter.
Fair. I mean, and I just hate talking to everyone all the time, so
Yeah.
there is that. So at this point, people called me. If it was still like the days of answering machine, my outgoing message would say "fuck off." I'm writing.
I got a house phone because just in case we had to call 911, you should have a landline. And I have an answering machine, but the phone service picks up and it goes to a voicemail with the phone service, but I don't know how to get to that. So I have all these messages on there that I don't know how to get. I'm like, well, if it was important, they'd have my cell number.
That will be some interesting archaeology to walk through, and a lot of drunk dials.
No, I know how to get it off the answering machine, but it went to the phone service.
The voicemail. I'm curious. I'd almost want to listen to voicemail because I'm guessing there'd be some crazy shit on there that might explain some things.
It might. It
would probably explain what happened to a few potted plants at the very least.
Right. Well, as it is for I have the Google phone number right now for the shop. People call all the time, but nobody leaves a message. So sometimes I try to text them back through the Google Voice and go, hey, this is Nikki from Golden Apple. How can I help you? And no one ever responds. I feel so not loved.
No, well, because to a lot of people, they're calling it, but to them, it's like calling a porn shop. In their minds, calling a witch shop is the same as pulling into the lot and going shopping for a cheap vibrator.
Well, the only thing that I hate is that it doesn't tell me calling for this number.
Yeah.
So I think that they're someone just calling me, and if I don't know them and they don't pop up on the caller ID, I just don't answer it. I figure if it's important, they'll leave a message.
I mean, you've got it in Google Voice, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
But it doesn't say it's a Google Voice call.
That's a setting in your phone, probably.
Oh, maybe. Okay,
so that's probably part of it.
That would be the
I've got to learn because I'm still listed as a life coach on Yelp in San Francisco. There's this one set of scammers that they always call, and they always start with I'm looking for a life coach for me and my family. So of course they're trying to get you to think ring a ding ding, lots of money. And then, do you take credit cards? It always starts with, do you take credit cards? And it turns into this thing where they describe their family as all females, which is disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
And they want these specific things that are absolutely not in any of the services I provide. And they're like, can we just do this by text? Because, because I'm deaf? Okay. And it's each step seems reasonable, but it's been repeated just often enough that I've gotten apartments oh no, you've already hit me with a scam. I'll just answer with that because I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah. I remember the time you had someone that you were like, nothing that you want is in my purview. Yeah. Everything I do is very clearly listed. And they were a legitimate client, but they just wanted things that you didn't do.
Yeah, well, because they wanted to, what I do help, I am not a therapist. I do not substitute for a therapist. And what they needed was a freaking therapist. Mm-hmm. I will do things that will help your therapist work with you better, but I am not a therapist.
Yeah.
And I am planning on going to Cherry Hill Seminary for pastoral counseling at some point. So I will at some point be a pastoral counselor, which is not anytime soon, but I am most certainly not a therapist. Eventually my partner Cinti will be a therapist, and that is a different thing. And right now they are not a therapist. Yeah. We are healers, but we are not therapists. Yeah.
By increments.
Yes.
I'm still slogging my way through those herbalism classes.
How's it going?
It would be a lot better if I actually did the modules.
Probably.
I got kind of snowballed in life stuff.
Yeah, I get
thinking about that today.
Yeah. I mean, I managed to show up for all of my photography classes. It helps that they're on Zoom, so showing up is a lot easier.
Nice.
Especially since I'm living in a city where it is literally impossible to get a lift when it's not a pandemic, let alone now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're all kind of leery of the Lyfts and the Ubers now.
Yeah, because you have to wear masks, and honestly,
I'm okay with the mask thing, but
yeah, I don't mind wearing the mask, but yeah, there's other people that are going to be in those cars, and I've had some really creepy experiences with some of those drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, lift pink shouldn't be necessary, but it is so necessary.
What was I gonna say? I don't know. I was gonna segue into something, and I gotta remember what it is.
I don't know. How are we doing for time? Like, we didn't have a specific time for this, but
We didn't have a specific time. We're about an hour and a half right now.
I think we're probably at the limit. So
Yeah.
I think we've talked about don't dredge things up and take them home to live with you.
Yes.
Put it
Please
back.
don't leave the witch bottles where you find them.
Yeah.
It's not like using your metal detector and finding a gold watch.
No. I mean, somebody might consider that gold, but no.
Yeah, because urine's probably the nicest thing you're gonna find in there. Yeah. Leave the hex tablets at the bottom of the well.
Don't open the bottles. You never know which ones are a spirit trap, and you're going to get a face full of ick.
Yeah, and honestly, even if it had no power to it, you don't know how long it's been buried, and you have that many years old. Yuck.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until you get the original edition of the bubonic plague and a squirrel bites you.
That's the other thing that I saw, the squirrel that had the bubonic plague. What the hell?
Oh, okay, so apparently I have some friends in Colorado who told me it's actually super common for squirrels to carry bubonic plague. It just seemed appropriate given everything else going on.
But what happened to the murder hornets?
I miss them.
And the locusts. I thought we were getting locusts.
I mean, sometimes they don't get here till August.
Okay.
I've been around for locusts. I've been around for locust and cicada storms, and really the only bad part, like, it's obviously terrible in the crops, but when you live in an urban environment, it's mostly just the never being able to sleep because of the noise.
I just want to live the mummy.
If the mummy looked like the mummy in the Brendan Fraser movie, sure.
Yeah, if Brendan Fraser could come save me from the mummy, I would be totally okay with that.
I wouldn't have minded the mummy kidnapping me. He was hot.
Yeah, he is pretty hot.
And he didn't talk much, which was even better.
We were just watching with that kid. Do not read from the book.
I've been talking to too many men lately. I'm just like, here's your ball gag. We can go from there. But
do not read from the book.
Well, in my case, it's probably too late because it's in my head somewhere.
Right.
It's worse than Chuck Palahniuk's Lullaby.
All right. Well, I think that was a pretty fun episode.
I think so.
I don't know what we're going to talk about next time, but
yeah. Also, don't hex the Fae. That's a self-correcting problem.
Yes. Because whatever they did to piss you off enough to hex them, they will do something worse in retaliation. The moon and the sun don't care. Not really.
They're floating space rocks and space engines. And again, probably a self-correcting problem.
Yes. Yeah, that's our episode. Please, if you like what you heard tonight, please follow us on Facebook or our YouTube channel.
And feel free to share, especially if you found us amusingly obscene. So,
actually, we were pretty mild tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there will be more stupid in the next weeks.
Yeah. You only mentioned porn shops once.
That's pretty good for me.
I think we should have an episode. That's going to be our sex magic episode.
I mean, are we going to have a little GIF of somebody like using a planchette with their penis?
Now I have to look for that. We will talk about how you can use crystals to store sexual energy.
That is your thing, yes.
And I can tell the story of when my this will definitely, I won't tell it now, this will definitely be in that episode. The story of my bachelorette party was actually a pleasure party with sex toys, and all of my friends that were there, all of our moms were with us.
Oh, fun.
It was hysterical. Oh, so that'll be our I don't know what episode it'll be. It won't be the next one, but it's going to be coming up. Definitely, if you are a practicing pagan out there who is looking for a social group, you can find our group, the Emperor Norton Magical People's Social something.
Magical Folk Social. Like if you search Emperor Norton and Meetup and
yes,
for this Bay Area, it'll come up.
Or message one of us.
Yep.
And we can direct you to that. Also, find our page, Golden Apple Metaphysical. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Oh, I got to figure out how to turn this off on. I need some cool ending music is what I need. All right, end broadcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Maybe we should just get a kazoo. Or like